I suppose that some of you have been here at previous CEO events already. So allow me to do a very brief introduction, starting with the global ranking of the publishing industry, which is the starting point for that debate. We are doing this together with Publishers Weekly, Livres, Hebdo, the Bookseller, buchreport, and PublishNews Brazil since 2007. We are listing 60 global publishing groups with revenues from publishing, just from publishing, of 150 million euros or more. And that's turned into an annual update so that one can see who are the leading companies, how did they develop over the past year, and what are the main changes in that industry. And as you well know, there are quite a few changes. 55% of the overall revenues of the 60 largest publishing companies are revenues from the top 10 segment, with a combined revenues of 56 billion euros. What we account is what we can identify as revenues from publishing. So we would exclude magazine revenues, newspaper revenues, but for instance, in the case of Random House until 2010, we included the book club. And you see the top segment is very much influenced by science, technical, medical publications, but also by education and not only by trade. The development over the past years in terms of revenue, but also even more so in terms of profits, it's not even. Some groups are performing in a stronger way than others, and recently Random House has been in a specifically strong position here. Let me just remind you, as I said earlier, for 2010 we still had the club included, and that shows, for instance, the restructuring of that segment, that some parts have been integrated with other parts of the largest groups, and shows the shift on the one hand and the readjusting management to the globalization and the digitization in the marketplace. Now, when Penguin House and Random House, Penguin,
we do branding here.
Yes.
Penguin House
got together, you had two really powerhouses forming a new unity, which is, as it claims itself, the world's first truly global trade book publishing company. And when you look at the offices that Markus is having all over the globe, you can imagine that he spent some time traveling in his job. The size of the new group is really very significant. It will help to define, redefine, innovate the entire industry, and that's at the core of what we want to discuss in that 1 hour of conversation. Brief introduction of Markus Dohle. He is now the CEO of Penguin Random House. That's his picture. And he used to be with Random House since 2008, and before he spent already a long career path at Bertelsmann, but at Avato, and not the publishing part. So, and that's also my first question. One would expect you to just work on the logistics, on the hardcore stuff, and not with the authors. But you meet authors, right?
Well, I mean, the authors are the center of what we are doing, and the alignment with our authors is, of course, extremely important for us. Has always been and will be in the future. This is actually my 20th consecutive book fair, and actually it's an honor to be on the team that has the opportunity to bring these two trophy brands in publishing together, and I want to thank you for your invitation first, and I want to thank everybody for making the time midday in Frankfurt, which is a big deal, to be here. So I'm going to try to live up to your expectations, and a lot of current and former colleagues are in the room from Germany and all over the world. So I hope we make it a good experience and we can engage everybody in our discussion. Coming back to the authors, they are the center of what we do, and of course I want to be engaged with the authors. I truly believe, from my leadership mantra, I believe in the day-to-day. I believe that you should only be responsible for setting the strategy if you really understand the detail. You should only be responsible for creating a future if you respect and understand the history and where people come from and companies come from. And again, fundamentally, our business model is not changing. You know, it starts with discovering talent and nurturing talent and connecting that talent to the largest possible audience. So yes, I love to meet authors, and it's a gift to get to know so many fantastic people who, you know, who have to tell a story, who can tell a story for millions of people around the world.
We have, as in the previous years, 5 colleagues of our partner publishing magazines who will ask the detailed questions to Markus. And I want to start with George Slowik of Publishers Weekly, and I guess you will try to make us understand a little bit more in detail what the whole merger has been about. Please, George Slowik.
Hi, Markus. Hi, it's good to see you. This is like 60 Minutes here, right? It's like der heiße Stuhl, right?
The benefits of consolidation and of mergers are often very clear in terms of logistics and cost savings and so forth. But tell us how this larger company will remain nimble in the ever-changing environment we find ourselves in now as publishers.
That's a very good question. Size is actually not a value in and of itself, and it's very hard to extract the value from size. The famous economies of scale that people talk about. We at Penguin and Random House have had some experience in managing size because before the merger we were already the 2 largest consumer book publishers in the world. So there is some experience in terms of keeping the company nimble, agile, flexible in our rapidly changing market environment. We have a very clear idea, George, as to how we want to bring these 2 companies together. Both companies emerged and evolved, were created through many, many mergers of small and medium-sized publishing houses. So Penguin and Random House, before the merger, were actually 2 communities of small and medium-sized publishing houses, creatively and entrepreneurially independent small and medium-sized publishing houses. And the picture is that the task is that we bring these 2 communities of small and medium-sized publishing houses together into one. And preserving that small company feel on the creative facing, on the author and agent facing part of the business is extremely important for us in order to protect our revenue pool, in order to create an environment where 1 + 1 is greater than 2. And that's the goal, right? And on the service, the corporate, the innovation part, we have a huge opportunity not only to pool resources, to pool investments and innovation. That in and of itself is a value. But now we have the opportunity to really scale that innovation and to apply that innovation to a much broader business, to a much broader range of titles. So that synthesis of preserving small company feel on the creative side with our 250 medium-sized, small and medium-sized publishing houses combined with the scale of a global player, the opportunity to leverage innovation and scale what works in our rapidly changing market environment. That's the opportunity and that's the picture that we implement.
Give us some idea of your philosophy around the merger and the pace at which you see the entities coming together?
Well, first of all, it was actually yesterday when we completed our first 100 days as United Company. Good segue into your next question, right? You might want to ask, I don't know your questions, but and we've actually successfully completed our first quarter as Penguin Random House in the history of our company. And that's very important, A good start is half the race, right? So both on the, financially, but also from a bestseller performance perspective and from a critical acclaim, literary acclaim perspective, really, really positive start. I always said, we want to make it a very smooth, a very quiet landing. I wanted to make it even hard for people to notice that we closed the deal. I wanted to make it the most boring merger in the history of corporations. Because in essence, what we do does not change. And I think that went quite well. We made it a smooth landing, a quiet landing as Penguin Random House. And that helped us to actually not distract our people from their day-to-day business as we approach the most important season, the fall and holiday season. And I think that went really, really well. George, we have the luxury to take the time because we bring two healthy, profitable, well-managed and well-operated companies together. There is no need to rush. This is really a proactive move. And my motto is always quality over speed here. And so far, I think we have lived up to that by making it a quite uneventful first quarter. Sorry for the press, actually. So.
Before I pass it along to my colleagues, one further question, and I'll segue off your word distraction. How do you keep the DOJ outcome from being a major distraction to the two companies as they come together, and with the restrictions that were imposed on at least half of the entity?
So this is my 20th consecutive book fair. I hope I'm going to be here next year too. So is my general counsel here in the room? Sort of, how many lawyers do we have? That's a difficult one, right? So let me first come back to distractions. So I think, very good things have happened in the first 100 days. Also, like how people connected, the mutual respect. Our first meetings, both on a management and executive level, and also on the ground. There is mutual respect. It's sort of, in some areas, even a reunion, because so many people have worked at Random House and Penguin before, and it feels really, really good what's happening. But of course, we don't want to declare victory too soon here, and we have a lot of challenges. And distraction is one of our greatest challenges. Many mergers fail because people get distracted from their core business. There is even research about it. So the average productivity across all industries without merger actually going concern situation of a company is like 5 hours per day. That's the number that research shows. In merger situations, that productivity, daily productivity of the staff in a company goes down to around 1 hour per day. People get distracted. And in many merger situations, the experience is that all of a sudden the core business suffers. And the shareholders think like, what's happening? I mean, we just brought the companies together and the core business suffers because of distraction. So we know that continuity will by far outweigh the change with this merger because the essence of our business, the core, the center is actually not changing. We have to find and publish the best books with creativity and excellence in the future and connect our authors and their works to as many people as possible. That does not change. So distraction and avoiding distraction is actually one very important task for us and for me, actually. The second is, of course, avoiding that the integration work of the back ends, the systems, prevent us from continuing to innovate. Integration needs technology resources and innovation needs technology resources. So our task is to ramp up our technology resources intelligently so that we can continue to innovate and do even more there while we integrate the two companies on the back end. So those are two big challenges. Now I'm coming to the DOJ. Well, look, I mean, I thought like the thing is over. We live now, we live in agency light, right? It's a new experience. E-books are being discounted again. And we try to adapt, we try to test, we try to take a very analytical approach to it. And, the task is, coming back to the authors, Rüdiger, the task is to maximize the revenues for our authors going forward. And that's what we do. It's not a big deal for the company. Oh.
I'm afraid. I'm asked to announce also, if you want to check your email or otherwise Twitter what Markus is saying, there's Wi-Fi in the room. Dimension is the username and the password is program.
So if you check your emails, then I know what you guys are saying.
But we move on.
Don't fall asleep. And please, if you want to engage in the discussion, please come forward.
And we want to move on with Philip Jones from the Bookseller on the more international perspectives.
Hi, Markus. Thanks for coming and answering some questions. It's been said before that getting big is not itself a business strategy, and I think you intimated as much in your previous answer. But I wonder, when we look at the global ranking, Penguin Random House is not the biggest publisher, the biggest trade publisher, but it's not the biggest publisher because you've got Reed Elsevier, Thomson Reuters, Pearson still. And of course, some of your customers are still much, much bigger than even the combined Penguin Random House. So I wonder whether you could really ask the question of, are you big enough?
Oh my God. Give me a break. Let me digest for a moment, okay? This one, and then we can talk again. Look, I mean, first of all, I want to say that we are really, really glad and happy that we got the deal approved. That was really important for us because you don't want, in a merger situation, start to spin off some imprints or whatever because of, whatever regulatory issues. So, getting the approvals from all the jurisdictions and antitrust authorities was very important, for the whole project, even before we closed the deal. Are we big enough? That's a good question, and I know exactly what you mean. Again, I would not compare size on the publishing side with size on the retail side. And basically, fundamentally, we are very aligned with also the online retailers, may it be physical or digital. Because fundamentally, what we want to do is, we want to bring our books and introduce our books to as many readers as possible. So the fundamental idea of what retail wants and what we want as publishers is aligned. And the rest is drama around it. If we agree that we are actually aligned in our sort of, in our strategic goal, then it's all about sort of how can we make this collaboration and cooperation as productive as possible, both domestically and also globally, internationally. The global online retailers and digital retailers, ebook retailers, they roll out their businesses, right? They're rolling out their businesses globally. And that is a huge opportunity for us. Today, Penguin Random House already distributes and sells books in more than 100 countries. And we know, I mean, I know it because I worked in supply chain, how difficult that is on the print side. And the growth opportunities for us, both in print and in digital, to reach out to more readers globally and introduce our authors to more readers in the future is huge. It's actually, on the physical front, only 1 or 2 days away, the product, the book, and on the digital side, only 1 click away. So there is huge growth opportunity in emerging markets for us. And I also want to say that the global retailers and e-tailers have brought a lot of innovation into our industry. And my hypothesis is that they've expanded the market because of the convenience that they provide for readers. Buying books 24/7, both in print and in digital form. They've expanded the market. So, they need our content, we need their access to readers, so it's a clear win-win situation.
You mentioned innovation, and it's a constant theme of this fair, but also previous fairs, that publishers need to innovate. And around the Penguin Random House merger, there's definitely talk of the new company playing a leadership role, both in terms of looking at new business models and in terms of digital or other innovation. Can you articulate how you think that might play out?
Of course, innovation is, of course, one of the key rationales for the merger. Again, we bring two sort of healthy, profitable trophy brands, cultural institutions together. It's the dream combination, Penguin Random House, right? With very deep content treasures, backlist, and the sort of most powerful sort of roster of best-selling authors. So both on on the backlist front and front list side, we actually bring two very, very creative companies together and successful companies together. Now, innovation is, of course, one of the key rationales. Because we think we can now invest even more and in a more structured way. We don't, make the mistakes like on both sides, at Penguin and at Random House. We can learn faster and we can scale innovation, which is even more important. It's a big difference whether you apply a piece of innovation, a new tool in direct-to-consumer marketing to 15% market share or to 30%, and in some categories perhaps to 40%. It's a big, big difference because you create a standard going forward. This scaling what works, scaling innovation, is the key rationale for the merger. Our basic strategic assumption is that our print business will always be important, always, not in 50 years or always. And that our digital business is, of course, becoming more and more important. And that is a very simple but very important assumption. So we are basically saying, even in 100 years from now, the print business will be a big chunk of our business. May it be 70%, today it's 80%, right? Worldwide. Sort of 80% of our business is print, 20% is digital. The buzz here at the fair is 95% digital, 5% print. I think there is a clear misunderstanding. 80% is actually print today, and in our two biggest markets in North America and in the UK, the growth rates of digital are sort of flattening out a little bit. So we strongly believe that print will always be a big chunk of our business, and it doesn't really matter whether we end up at 50% in the new sort of world and balance, at 60%, at 40%, or at whatever percent. It doesn't really matter. It will always be a big chunk for our business. Now, that means that we continue to invest in our print business heavily. We are not running away. We call it, our zigzag strategy. While many publishers run away from print, we continue to invest in print. While everybody goes zig, we go zag. Publishers are making important strategic calls today, you know, in this rapidly changing market environment. And that will sort of, you know, distinguish publishers going forward, and that can create new competitive advantages. We want to create competitive advantages in print and in digital. So we continue to invest in print and we continue to invest in digital. Innovation is happening on all three sides of our business: on the retail side, on the end consumer side, and on the author side. For retail, our task is to sustain physical retail, to help sustain physical retail. I don't know whether we can save it, but to help sustain physical retail and to expand digital retail. Clearly, like two clear tasks on the retail front. On the end consumer side, our task is to communicate much more directly with our end consumers. You know, we have and we can together much better than alone and stand alone. We can crack the code of discoverability in a world with fewer bookstores. We can do that. And only if we can prove in the future that we can reach out to more readers than anybody else in this industry, that we can actually connect our authors and their works to more readers than anybody else, only then we will be relevant. So that shift of paradigm in book marketing is extremely important and is in the center of innovation of Penguin Random House. And last but not least, of course, and to begin with, our authors. Staying aligned with our authors, enhancing our service portfolio for our authors is extremely important for us. We don't want to be disintermediated. We want to increase retention and we want to increase their loyalty to core publishing and curation.
Thank you so much, but we haven't been talking really about Europe. We're here in Frankfurt with Markus Dohle, and I wonder what Buchreport from Germany wants to ask with regard to Europe.
Let's start with a German topic. Random House Germany is not part of the merger. When will be Munich? Will Munich be integrated into the deal?
Well, you know what? Herr Wilking, it's der Verlagsgruppe Random House in Munich is not sort of officially part of the Penguin Random House merger. That's absolutely true. But actually, in the day-to-day business, there is no change. They are very closely associated, both on the creative side and on the service, corporate, digital innovation side. Like as before, they are very closely associated. They are not actually consolidated in this, whatever, 3 billion euro, and not part of the official merger. But, you know, I have the honor to still serve and help, you know, our colleagues in Munich. At Bertelsmann, we consolidate the business together. Under my leadership, I represent Penguin Random House and Verlagsgruppe Random House on the board of Bertelsmann. So practically nothing has changed.
Is it a question of merger control? Would Germany have been a stumbling block for the merger?
It was part of the negotiation dynamic. You know, it's actually, you know what? Perhaps it will become again part of the you know, combined venture. They are actually in a very good position right now, right? So they can sort of, you know, watch us from the outside a little bit, and actually, I would not say cherry pick, but actually benefit from everything that is happening on the innovation side, on the creative side, because we are closely associated and we work together. But they are not 100% part of it. It was, you know, it was actually the outcome and the dynamic of the negotiation.
Okay. Penguin Random House is going for growth, in particular in India, China, and Latin America. What do you expect from the markets of old Europe? Is it a mature, perhaps shrinking business?
Well, I actually, first of all, I want to say here in Central Europe, continental Europe, I mean, you guys should be very optimistic. Yes, it's mature. It's stable. But stable is the new up. And it was always the new up in publishing, wasn't it? And yes, we have a lot of challenges, but you are sort of, you know, and I don't want to go into the details of the fixed book price agreement, but you know, it's sort of coming, everything comes a little bit like smoother here in continental Europe. I want to, and we can come back to continental Europe. I think that, of course, we have huge growth opportunities in emerging markets. Our global footprints here, you know, the Random House and Penguin global footprints are very complementary to each other. Penguin has a long history in India, sort of almost 30 years, right? We have a long history in Spain, Plaza Janés, and you know, Random House Mondadori in Latin America. You know, Penguin has that footprint in Brazil. And it's fantastic. So it's like a puzzle that fits perfectly, you know, together. So you know, the combination of innovation in our core markets, mastering the digital transformation, and growing in emerging markets, that's the recipe for success going forward for Penguin Random House.
Do you think of any investments in continental Europe, in France or so?
Well, again, like, you know, what can I say? I mean, I think we have a big task here, right? And you know, to bring these two companies together. We are not really actively now pursuing a lot of acquisition opportunities here. So we can be a little bit more opportunistic going forward. And I don't want to say no, but I think, you know, we also want to be realistic and modest and humble. We have a big task here. And that task goes even beyond the company we create. You know, the team also feels somehow a little bit like responsibility to get this right for publishing and for the industry as a whole. Because we don't want to mess this one up. That wouldn't be good for publishing.
You talked about the 80% print and 20% digital things. What do you think is the reason for the different speed of e-books, e-book developments in USA, UK, and compared to continental Europe, and even to the Spanish language market worldwide? Do you have any idea?
Well, I mean, it's not the first time that the Anglo-American markets would adopt new technology faster than continental Europe. I think that has been the case before with digital photography and even, like, you know, with iPod and other sort of inventions. So I think it's part of the DNA a little bit of those countries. We also have different market environments. I mean, you know, if you come to the United States, you have regions where you can't find a bookstore in almost 100 miles. So, you know, if you want to read, you better use technology. And that is one of the driving forces. I'm actually quite optimistic. I've seen this morning, actually, I just discussed with my Verlagsgruppe Random House team the growth rates in Germany, you know, our growth rates, and it's really, really compelling. We are getting there. And, you know, in continental Europe, I think Germany is now sort of the leading, you know, digital sort of, you know, engine here, growth engine, which is great. And in the fullness of time, we're going to approach the 20% here too, even with a very, very good network of retail stores and retail environment, which is under pressure, and parts of it is a correction, by the way, and not sort of, you know, shrinkage, actual shrinkage. But, you know, and we are approaching 20% with this huge and fantastic network and distribution of print books. I think it's a big deal. We are getting there. What's really interesting is, Herr Wilking, that our markets in the US and the UK are sort of, you know, the growth rates are flattening out a little bit. Who would have thought that? At sort of 25%-ish share. I think it's quite surprising. And we've always believed in print, and we feel more encouraged and inspired as ever to invest in print, because it will matter always.
Now, publishing on a really global scale is not just Germany, France, the US, the UK. It's really many languages, many different environments, many different cultures, many different legislations, and we want to look into one case a little bit more specifically. That's Brazil. Joanna Teixeira Stevens is going to ask on behalf of Publishing News Brazil.
Hi. Is this working? Hi. Want to start from the complementarity you were talking about, because the fusion does seem to cover the emerging markets really well. So my first question is the growth over? Are you expanding to other emerging markets? And if so, would that be through like joint ventures or like from other publishers like Mondadori or?
Yeah. So first of all, I want to say that publishing has always been a quite local business. And it is very important for Penguin Random House. It's part of our cultural DNA that we respect local culture and nurture local culture. There are some global aspects and trends. I already talked about global accounts, rolling out their book businesses globally. Huge opportunity for us, you know, to distribute our content on a global scale and to grow together with them. And then these publishing phenomenons, right? They are also becoming more global. Social buzz, globalization. But besides that, the core of the book business will always sort of, the center, the essence of it, will be local. And we enter those markets humbly. We want to learn about the local environment, about the local culture. Like in China, for example, very small steps that Penguin did undertake to learn and not to sort of, you know, bring publishing to China. We want to learn about it, and then once we have learned enough, we invest. In Brazil, we found this wonderful partner, Companhia das Letras, this wonderful cultural powerhouse. Fantastic match with Penguin. And when I heard about the partnership, you know, as Random House CEO with Companhia das Letras, when I heard about the partnership between Penguin and Companhia, first the Classics partnership and then the stake that they took into it, I was so jealous, so I needed the merger to become part of it. So now I'm part of Companhia das Letras, you know, one rationale for the merger. And I visited Brazil 2 weeks ago, and I was so impressed about local growth, a sort of a growing middle class, you know, a growing readership in that country, a growing physical retail in that country. I was really impressed with Companhia and with the energy in the market. And yes, we don't want to publish in 150 languages and accents. But you know, Spain, Latin America, and Portuguese is part of it, is one of our core sort of growth areas. You know, 500 million Spanish language people, more than 30 million in the US alone. There is huge growth opportunity for us. And we also believe in the recovery of Spain itself. So we are investing in our Spanish language business. We bought out Mondadori a year ago out of the joint venture. And, you know, we would like to grow in Spain and Latin America going forward. Our colleagues in Mexico have done a terrific job. Mexico is growing both in digital and in print right now. It's fantastic, and our team has done a great job. So that's one area of focus and priority. There are some markets in Asia, and India, of course, is a growth market for us, but we don't want to do too much. We have a core business. We have to integrate the two companies. We want to continue to innovate, and we want to scale that innovation. That is a big task.
Since I've been to Brazil 2 weeks ago, I want to ask, what are the expectations and projections for the company in Brazil, and also a little bit about China, since you're said you're just investing in it now?
So Brazil, again, like this company is just fantastic, and the fit is just perfect. So to be part of it and their growth is a gift in and of itself. Okay. So what we try to do is we try to help them to actually, you know, on the creative front in terms of content. Much closer, we try to reach this new middle class. So they're branching out also like on the commercial side of the business with Paralela and other imprints. And of course, we try to help them to be innovation leader in Brazil, which is fantastic. But, you know, the company doesn't need any adjustment because it's a great company. Now, China is a different animal. And you know, there is still like this sort of, you know, issue that we can't own, you know, a publishing company in China. So China, from a publishing perspective, you know, sort of, you know, original publishing perspective, you know, we will be cautious, we will grow, we will sort of, you know, learn more, and that will sort of be the next phase in China. What's really, really great in China is the growing distribution, both in print and in digital. You know, the digital retailers are actually rolling out their business, and sort of, you know, physical convenience has become much, much better in China. And that is, of course, a huge opportunity for us as the English language becomes more and more important in the world to grow in Asia and to roll out our business and to bring our English language content into those countries.
And in terms of book titles, because in Brazil and in other countries you have imprints, Penguin imprints that publish Penguin classics in foreign languages, and also local content by, for instance, Companhia das Letras. And on the other side, you have mega sellers, and so is it about putting mega sellers in emerging markets or investing in local content? Or,
well, I think that we are just reacting to this sort of global buzz and social buzz that creates those mega sellers, right? You know, I mean, and why not sharing that content? And I think it's good for the authors, it's good for agents if we share our marketing tools and our marketing campaigns with our colleagues around the world and just leverage the brand and sell more books and find more readers. It's just good. So again, it will always be a combination of nurturing local talent and discovering local talent. And that, you know, I mean, Companhia has done that, you know, brilliantly for almost 30 years now. And we just want to continue, let them continue to do that. And plus, sort of sharing with them opportunities that they can also publish. And they've always published sort of, you know, authors from abroad, and we can do that now in a much more structured way.
Quite a few levels that you have to deal with. We're still not done with all our questions, but we have...
Even with my long answers, 15 minutes are left, right? So.
Yes.
15.
You still have a few words to say, I hope. Fabrice Piot from Livres.
Yeah, now your group, as well as the whole book industry, now face global companies who are both booksellers, librarians, even publishers, operating self-publishing platforms, etc. From your publisher point of view, how would you characterize, how would you define Google, Amazon, Apple, and do you make any differences between them?
The differences between them? Oh my God, these guys are, you know, very different, right? They have a few things in common. The global approach, for example, and also that they are really interested in content businesses, in distributing content and in content.
So they are customer or competitors?
Oh, well, you know what? I've always said that, you know, these sort of, you know, if you live through this, if you want to master the digital transformation, and if you want to make it a smooth landing, you of course you have challenges and you are facing new sort of publishing models and new competition and disintermediation and self-publishing, you know, as one sort of aspect of it. And I always said, like, you know what? It's only going to make us better at what we do. It's a good challenge for publishers, for curators, to see new business models emerging. We have to give authors and agents evidence, again, that, that we can connect them to more readers than anybody else. And that's what we want to do. And I'm convinced we can do that. And we can do that together. We can perform that role much better together than as standalone companies. And that's the rationale behind Penguin Random House. So new business models, you know, is actually great. Many of you know that we have Author Solutions International as a portfolio company that came in with you know, Penguin. So we actually perform and provide the biggest self-publishing platform in the world. So we, you know, a part of our business is also self-publishing. And self-publishing is market expansion because there is this mega trend of self-expression. And, you know, I think self-publishing makes curated publishing also more important because we have a flood of publications. I mean, 10 years ago with 85,000 new titles at the book fair, we always thought like, oh my God, we cannot manage that. Today we have hundreds of thousands of new titles with ISBN every year. That makes publishing, curated publishing, more important because in this more complex world, people need orientation and guidance, and publishers guide. So I think, you know, it's not about confrontation, neither with the global accounts, nor with new publishing models. It's a challenge, and it's good.
In an interview to the New Republic, the literary agent Andrew Wiley urged publishers to leave Amazon. Are you ready to do it?
Where is Andrew? Are you in the room, Andrew? Look, again, fundamentally, and that was always my mantra, the relationship is about cooperation and not about confrontation. And I don't let anybody talk me into this sort of confrontational sort of mantra, because it's not true. We want to reach out to as many readers as possible. Of course we have to manage each other's like somehow, right? And that's fine. But fundamentally, we are aligned. And the rest is about whatever, terms of sale and whatever, like negotiation power, you name it. But I have a great deal of respect for the entrepreneurial achievement and the innovation that Amazon et al. Brought into our industry. And we should not forget about that. Kindle has at large prevented us from piracy in the first place, because they created this wonderful, very convenient Kindle system with a fantastic Wi-Fi device, with a huge selection of titles and a fantastic convenience to buy books. And that was sort of a gift for, I think, even the book world and the value chain of books, that they started with that when the business was so small. So they brought innovation, they've grown for a reason, and I think we can grow together, both domestically and internationally.
The streaming model is emerging for books as it exists for music. Is that good news for publishers? And
what is good news?
The emerging of streaming model for reading books, you know, and purchasing books.
You mean subscription and stuff?
Yeah, subscription, like it's for music.
Yeah, you know, it's like, look, I mean, these are new business models, right? We are testing. We do our homework and R&D with different business models, and we do it cautiously. We are building a company for the next 100 years, and not for 100 days. We think that some of the new business models are not sustainable. And we want to be careful because, you know, our goal is to maximize the revenue for our authors. You know, we take our time, quality over speed, and there is no need to rush. But of course, we are very interested in new business models. We are even creating new business models, and we are innovating in that space.
And would you build yourself a streaming platform?
Well, actually, we have in Germany, we have a joint venture, a consortium together with Holzbrink and Arvado, called Scooby. And Scooby is a subscription model for ebooks. And we've been testing and growing actually that platform for almost 2 years. So we have our feelers out there and our toe in the water. So yes, we do test in that space.
As you said, you're building a company for 100 years. Do you think that a big publishing company like yours can survive in the digital world by staying only on the publishing industry? I mean, doesn't it need to do other things like book selling or others? I don't know.
I'm not a big fan of sort of vertical integration. So I think, and actually we want to strengthen trade, and retail. We don't want to further weaken them, right? It's hard enough out there. And the transaction is not our core goal. Our core goal is to crack the code of discoverability in a world with fewer bookstores. What do we want? We want to keep readers interested in reading, and we want to provide them with great reads. We want them to choose books in the future, and not Netflix. And that is a big task. And this awareness thing, this shift of paradigm in book marketing is the biggest task for us. It's cracking this code. It's proving again that we can reach out to more consumers than anybody else. And that reach, that awareness creation in a much more sort of direct form and communication in a directer way, that will create the relevance for publishing going forward. Reach will result in relevance for publishing. Yes, I truly believe that we are relevant in 100 years from now. Our world is becoming more and more complex. People need guidance. People need editors who drill down sort of, vast information to its sort of core message. The world needs that more than ever before. I truly believe that. Our goal is to discover talent, to nurture talent, and to ensure discoverability. And then we're going to be relevant in 100 years.
From the beginning of this session, you defined your group as a sort of federation of small publishers. Well, I
call it community.
Yeah,
community.
It's
an important word at Penguin Random House.
Yes, but what has to be done locally, and what will you do globally? Because, well, you are the main group in general trade, and it's difficult to view your group like just small publishers sharing.
We like that picture. We like that picture.
Yeah.
It's good. It's a good picture.
It's a good picture, but yeah.
I don't know actually a creative. I've never met one who likes big. Right? For creatives, big is bad, isn't it? So they all like small. And again, size is not a value in and of itself. It's hard to manage size. It's hard to create a company where the sort of sum of the pieces is greater than the standalone companies, where 1 + 1 is greater than 2. So you want to be extremely cautious and decentralized on the author facing the creative side of the business. We want to protect and grow our revenue pool. We don't want to shrink it. So, and those creative cells, that entrepreneurial spirit will drive the whole company and our future revenues. And we want to combine that with scale, with the best tools, the best toolbox, and the best instruments to connect our authors to more readers, locally and globally. And leverage on the service side, the corporate side, the back end of our companies, both domestically and sharing that innovation globally and scaling it globally. Scale what works, that's the motto for us. And that synthesis, small company feel, hundreds of creative and entrepreneurial cells with, you know, extreme independence, both creatively and entrepreneurially, bringing their ideas to life, investing into risks, and then the best marketing machine to reach out to more readers in a world with fewer bookstores in a more end consumer-oriented way. It's the shift of paradigm in marketing. And we don't need to do the transaction. Others can do that better than we do.
The riddle of discoverability. What was the last book not published by neither Penguin or Random House that you read, and how did you discover it?
Yeah, I read 2 German books, and one of them I mentioned in the summer, and one, you know, the other one I actually read. It's sort of, you know, it's the Dolbelli books, the Hansa books, Die Kunst des klaren Denkens und die Kunst des smarten Handelns oder so ähnlich. Das sind die beiden Titel, right? Einen habe ich im Sommer gelesen, einen jetzt gerade. Sehr gute Hinweise für jemand, der eine große Aufgabe hat, to become a little bit smarter. Wie habe ich die discovered?
Can you speak in English? I guess that was a very good example between global and local, right?
So I talked about local culture, sorry guys, about German books. Wow, that shows indeed, yeah, that was good actually, and even not planned.
Discoverability is local.
Discoverability, so actually I read these 2 Hansa books, you know, Rolf Dolbelli, Die Kunst des klaren Denkens und die
The Art of Smart
Die Kunst des smarten Handelns, des klugen Handelns, and that was a very good experience. So unfortunately, these 2 books were not Random House books here in Germany, but you know, we have enough diversity and fragmentation, and that's the great thing. I discovered them through I saw one of those books on a table of a friend, and I thought like, oh my God, this is an interesting title. Did my research, read a review, bought the books, both at the same time, and read them.
Markus Dohle, vielen Dank.